that's the health service environment. Right, a little bit about me. It's not often I get a chance to talk about myself for 50 minutes or whatever with a captive audience, so here we go. I think the first thing, and it's what I said earlier about why I chose management, is I like people. I like people and I believe in them. I think nearly 100% people want to do a good job. They want to be successful. They want recognition. They're not naturally lazy. If they are, and I'm not saying there aren't lazy people out there that, there's usually a reason for that. But the natural state of mankind is to achieve things. And part of the role, therefore, of a manager is to let people achieve that. It's to empower people. And that's where I get a lot of buzz out of life. I like problem solving. I said at the start, I like to fix things. There are lots of problems in the health service, and lots of things that just hang on forever. If I see that, I need to do something about it. That's what I do. I also like the intellectual challenge of that, the difficulty of it. I think I'm an optimist. You know, I'm not a pessimist in any way, shape or form. I've had challenges in my life, but I try and work through them. I guess I've got quite a strong internal belief system, in the sense that I have a clear sense of what's right and what's wrong. It might not be right, but that's what I think. I can make a judgment on things. And if I see something in the health service that patients are having to wait too long, or if patients are being given a raw deal, and everybody will say, oh, well, it's because of this, and it's because we haven't enough staff, or we haven't enough money, or I don't accept that. If it's wrong, but it needs addressing and something doing about it. Okay. And if I think I am right, and something we need to achieve something, I'll stick to my guns and drive down that. I've had a few instances where I've come across clinicians, professional staff, who've gone off the rails. Somebody who had an alcohol problem and tried to hide it, and all the staff around this guy tried to hide it and protect him. I had a psychologist who just got a suspicion about taking advantage of vulnerable women, and got a complaint about him by chance from this woman, and I just knew there was something in it. And this was a guy I'd worked with for about 2 years, a guy that was infiltrating to be my friend and giving support to me as a manager. I just knew there was something not right about it. And then when I suspended him while we investigated it, I got letters from professors of psychiatry who were also his friends saying, you can't do this to this man. He's such a great clinician and such a great man. And I got external advice from quite a nationally respected leading psychologist, and he said, well, it's probably what he's doing is at the fringe of acceptable practice, but it's still just there as acceptable practice. And I said, no, it's not. This is not acceptable. It's preying on vulnerable women. So I pushed through, we sacked him, we got him taken off the professional register, and I just knew that was the right thing to do. Am I confident? Yes, I am. I'm confident enough to drive something through when I think it needs doing, and to try and stick to my guns and not waver having said that, if something is clearly going off and people I respect are saying you really need to rethink this one, I'll do that. I'm not rigid and inflexible, but once I've got a team around me and we all agree it's the right thing to do, that's what we do. But I'm also confident enough to know that I can't do it all on my own. I'm confident to say when I don't know something. And it takes me back to a little story when I was in a similar lecture theatre to this, when I was doing my degree. It was the final year, and all the professors came down the front and put a sort of workshop on, and you could ask questions about anything in the subject. You know, quantum mechanical theory, I don't understand the bit about quantum mechanical tunnelling, or I don't understand Heisenberg's uncertainty principle, or, you know, or I've read this thing and I get that bit and that bit, but can you just explain that a bit more? And there were more people in the audience than there is here. It was a very big year when I did chemistry. And so I went with all these questions that I knew, and I sat at the back somewhere with, can you explain this to us? And I was the only one asking questions. So I thought, am I thick? Have I not got it? Am I thick or something? Because everybody else must know because they're not asking questions. I got the first class honours degree, and I got the top first class honours degree of that year. And that was an important lesson to me. Don't be afraid to say you don't know. Because everybody else in there wasn't confident enough to admit they didn't understand something. It catches you out every time. You can see it when people are on television and they're asked an awkward question, or in an interview. People end up bullshitting. And you can tell it straight away. If you don't know, there's nothing wrong with not knowing something. You know, being a manager is a jack of all trades. I rely on experts in the field to tell me what to do. I'll challenge them, I'll ask some basic questions, but I rely on the professionals, the experts in the field, and I just assemble their thoughts and everything together and decide how we can support them do what they want to do. And I think, perhaps, most importantly, you wouldn't believe it today, but I'm actually quite a good listener. And at one stage in my career, I took some, I didn't take time out, but I did some evening work. I trained as a counsellor. And that was a really, really good skill for me. And that was, that's counselling individuals that have got problems, that have got stress in their life, that have got an underlying issue that they can't address. I trained for 3 years as a counsellor. And I found that one of the best management techniques I've ever learned. You wouldn't think of it as a management technique, but the art of listening, and the art of not challenging, and the art of trying to draw out to somebody, what's the issue? Why are they behaving this way? What do they need? And that's really useful in terms of management. So, what do I believe? It's a reiteration of what I've said before. I'm there to champion the man in the street. I'm there to provide, to make sure that we can provide a health service that's right for people with diabetes, that if somebody has a stroke, they go into hospital and get the right interventions at the right time. You know, just the average man in the street, and woman of course. And then my role is a supportive role. I don't believe I'm there as a manager to tell everybody what to do. That's not a management role, or that's not a leadership role, just dictating to what to do. You have to. I knew that stroke care was crap where I was. There was a national document that said, you know, when somebody's admitted to hospital, this should happen within half an hour, then they should get that scan, then they should get that treatment, and then they should be transferred to a dedicated stroke ward. And that wasn't happening in the place that I was working at the time, which was Derby. Why wasn't it happening? The hospital just hadn't got itself organised. So I worked with the clinicians, the stroke clinicians there, and the nurses, to say, what do we need to do to make this happen? You tell me, and then I'll make it happen with you and with the hospital management at the time. So it's working with the experts, it's facilitating. I think a manager's role is a supporting role. Most of the time it is supporting those people that work for you or those people that you're working with. Some of the challenges I've had, just by way of example, putting up buildings where people said it was impossible. We needed a day surgical unit in Bromley. If we didn't, people had to be admitted and stay overnight. And it was a compact site, but I pushed my estates managers, the building staff, to say, where on this site can we put a day surgical unit that's in the right position in relationship to the theatres and all the ancillary support that's needed? We found somewhere, we built it, it's still there now. And that was about 30 years ago, I guess now. I did a psychogeriatric day facility at St James's, where we engaged architects to sort of plan and how to do it, what facilities we needed, what space you needed. And that was a great service for people with confusion. In 2 hospitals, I've looked at where the wards and the departments were, and it wasn't an optimum use, it was there because of historical accident. So what we had to do, I worked with the hospital, with the team I had in the hospital and all the clinicians to say, how can we do this better? When I was down in London, the 2 acute hospitals I had were quite small. And there's something called the Royal Colleges, the Royal College of Anaesthetists and the Royal College of Surgeons. Those are the bodies nationally that set professional standards. And they said, oh, you can't do anaesthetics there because of X, Y, and Z. Right, the facilities for the anaesthetists. You can't practice trauma and orthopaedic surgery there because this is not right. And what I did, I worked with, there were probably about 50 leading the clinicians of these 2 trusts. So I worked with, certainly these 2 hospitals, and I worked with them and said, we're stuffed, aren't we? We can't do this service at this hospital because of, but we don't. How about if we move this bit from this hospital to that, and that from there to there? And I actually got sign-up from all 50 clinicians to a plan that ticked all the boxes, and it was a major change, and we had to reconfigure and move patients around, services around, but it worked. And I could only do that with taking the clinicians with me and using their advice. That was a challenge. Dealing with troublemakers and bad press. That was an interesting one. This was at Bromley Hospital in Kent. And we had some problems. We had some money being taken off us, so I had to try and run the hospital with fewer resources. But it was quite a good hospital. But there were about 6 people in the hospital that had got a chip on the shoulder. And every time something happened at the hospital, they were down to the local paper, the Bromley Times. And I got fed up of seeing my hospital on the front page of the Bromley Times about what a rotten service we provided and how the staff didn't care, etc., etc. And I knew that wasn't fair. It wasn't fair on the staff at the hospital that were doing the best and providing good service. It wasn't fair for the patients in the town, because if they come for treatment at that hospital, they need to be confident that, you know, they're getting a good service and that they can rely on the clinicians, the doctors and the nurses to provide them with good care. Now, if I thought it was crap, I would have said so and done something about it. But it wasn't. It was just these 6 troublemakers, and they're all medical record staff, for some reason, who had chips on the shoulder about where they were going and that. So I summoned the whole hospital to 2 meetings in the dining room. One at lunchtime, one in the afternoon, and I did a night one. And I stood on a table in front of all the staff at the hospital and read the riot act to them about how unfair this was on the service. What I did, I said, you can choose any 6 people from this hospital. I will meet with you, these 6 people, and me, and the editor of the Times, and let's have a discussion and let's have a proper debate about this. I invited the editor of the Bromley Times down to the hospital. We had this meeting and 3 people turned up, and it's a damp squib. I turned the media presentation of the hospital round. All of a sudden, I got praise. I got the leading article in the paper. I've still got the cutting for being open, inviting the press in, for actually trying to get the correct story of the services that we provided at this hospital. And from then on, the local paper came in and ran an article every week on the physio department, on the A&E department, and it turned into a very good news story and actually reflected what the people were doing, and again gave people confidence in the local hospital. So you could say that was risky. That was me being quite risky. It could have backfired, but I knew it was the right thing to do, and I went with conviction on that. It worked. Cost savings, that comes up every now and again, and that's tough. You have to try and do more with less. I won't go into it now, but you have to work really hard with people. You're not criticising them, but you just have to sometimes question the way things have been done, the way they've always been done. A little example, we always had 3 receptionists on the A&E department. So why do you need 3? There are times when the A&E department's quite quiet. Ah, well, but it could get busier every time. Well, no, because we've looked at the use of the A&E department, and when people present, there are peaks and troughs, and they're quite predictable. So let's try and flex the staffing levels and meet those. And if we do need somebody else, let's have somebody that we can pull in. You know, when you go to your supermarket, all the aisles are not full, are they? And a bit of a queue develops, and then they'll, over the tannoy, they'll get somebody else down. You have to try and provide services as efficiently as possible, because Mr. and Mrs. Taxpayer don't want to pay more tax for the health service, and that's what it comes down to in the end. I closed a learning disabilities hospital, and that was probably the most complex thing I have ever done. But that's because you have all different agencies involved. You've got the hospital staff, you've got the hospital management, you've got pressure groups for people with learning disabilities, some supported, some against. I had the local village residents campaigning against the closure of the hospital because it had a hydrotherapy pool there and they could have access to it. So their main concern was what to keep our hydrotherapy pool. Strange, but true. I had the local authorities, because we were transferring care from hospital to the local authorities. We had to buy houses for these people so that they could live like you and I do in a normal house, in a normal community, not being incarcerated on a hospital ward, in a little hospital, in a village, in the middle of nowhere. And again, that was something that had to be done. It wasn't cost cutting, it was actually costing more, but it was very complicated. And then in my last job, reconfiguring cancer specialist surgery. I won't go into that. That was complicated and lots of vested interests in that, but it was a challenge. The one thing I have to be careful of and be aware of in managing change, which is what I think hospital management or healthcare management or leadership is all about. It's about changing things, it's about making them better. Things can always be better. You've got to be conscious of who your stakeholders are, who you're working with, who are the main players that you need to engage. who's got a legitimate interest in this, and therefore you need to work with them, listen to what their needs are, see how their needs can be met. And who's just a bystander who can probably make lots of noise, but at the end of the day, they are not key players in this. They might just be a pressure group, somebody who, for reasons best known to themselves, want to put obstacles in your way. But at the end of the day, you can probably say, I've heard what you said, but we don't agree with you. This is what we're going to do. But what expertise do we need? I've talked quite a lot about expertise. Just the conclusions. The health service is I think any organisation, is very good at getting in a room and talking. People are good at that. They don't often resolve things. And I saw my role as trying to keep a focus, trying to keep us on track, and trying to make sure that we address the important things that we need to address. Keep focused. You need to be aware of people's individual needs. You keep listening and exhaust local discussion. Always look for win-wins. Win-lose is bad, because the person or the organisation that loses will always come back to have a go at you later. Keep people with you if you can. Standard negotiating practice. And keep your relations up. Disagree with people, but disagree with what they say, not with them as a person. And lastly, I've just got a few minutes to do this, I think. Working in teams. I have never worked on my own. I have always worked with a team of people around me. And that's probably the most satisfying thing in my work, developing teams. There was something that struck an chord with me many years ago. It's something I heard on the radio, I think. And it was the chief executive of Avis. Now, Avis is a car rental company, an international car rental company throughout the world. And it was faltering, it was failing. And they appointed a new chief exec. And the chief executive said, I went to this top management team, director of finance, director of marketing, director of whatever, operations and that. They were demoralised, they were not motivated, they were not achieving. It was a mess. They didn't know where to go or what to do. A year later, he had turned that company round. He'd got a motivated team, a high energy team, a team that achieved things. It was the same people. He didn't chuck them all out and bring in a new management team. He wasn't a football manager. It was the same people that he, I think, was a true leader, that he brought out the best in people and gave them a focus and something to believe in. And teams are greater than the sum of the individual parts. It's quite interesting, when you get an effective team working, it's a very stimulating place to be. What you need to do on your team is celebrate differences. Don't clone yourself in a team. Because if you clone yourself, you never get a challenge. You need people with different skills on your team. You need a challenge. I mean, when one of the teams I worked in a hospital team, it was the finance director. It used to drive me nuts, because we'd all be enthusiastic about wanting to develop this project and open this new service and change that one. And we'd be, sort of all winding ourselves up and going along. And he'd say, oh, wait a minute. And he'd ask a really basic question. And you'd think, oh God, why is he asking that? We dealt with that half an hour ago. And he said, no, I just don't get this thing here. You said that, I just don't get it. And after a bit, I learned to appreciate that guy because he was asking the fundamental questions that we just couldn't be bothered asking. And he tested some of our assumptions, our basic assumptions in our plans, and we ended up with far better plans. We changed them as a result of his intervention. The same team, I had somebody on it who was the lead nurse and was responsible for mental health services, or the psychiatric services, hospital and community that we provided. But he was a brilliant thinker outside the box. He could come up with ideas that I never even thought about and that others didn't think about. And I used him not just to tell me about psychiatry and mental health services, I used him to help us solve some of the bigger intractable problems in the hospital, well, 3 hospitals that I managed. And again, that taught me a lesson. Don't just put people in rigid roles. Use all the skills. Use them flexibly. Empower your team members. You're not there to micromanage them. If you develop them and you have trust in your team, and trust's a two-way thing, they need to trust you and you need to trust them. Let them get on with it. Step back, empower them and let them deliver. That's how people work well. That's how people achieve, not by micromanaging them. And the most important thing is take your team with you. You'll not achieve anything if you are charging ahead and your team's not with you. I think I'm going to sort of wind up soon, give you a bit of time for questions. The current organisation I'm with, I've been there 7 years. When I went there, it was an administrative organisation. It did the same thing as it had done for the last 10 years. And it was boring. And everybody had rigid roles, and nobody was happy with those roles. And I thought, I've got to change this. So I changed it. I've spent a lot of time with them in away days to try and show them what a vision for the future could look like and try to take them along with me. I now have a team that is very motivated, very energetic, very creative, and we're providing a whole range of more services than we ever did before.